It blacks.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's pretty good. So, maybe you could tell us who you are
Uh,
and where we are.
right. Well, my name is Walter Cipin. I'm the proprietor of Wayfarer Books at 85 Princess Street in downtown Kingston, Ontario. Wayfarer Books is the name of this bookstore. I'm the third owner. The bookstore originated over 30 years ago across the street in one of the old limestone buildings across the street, which I think is now modern primitive. And the first owner was a man named Steve Heinemann. And Steve was the son of an antiquarian book dealer from Germany who fled the Nazis. And the family spent the World War II time in China and came to Montreal after World War II and set up an antiquarian bookstore in the old part of Montreal called Mansfield Book Mart. So Steve grew up in the book trade, and when he came of age, instead of going to university, he came to Kingston to start his own secondhand bookstore, which he did across the street. Then he moved here in the winter of 78 and 79, and for a variety of reasons that need not be detailed here, he was forced to sell the store in 1981 to a disaffected American academic named Ron Paulson. And he had the store for several years, named it Paulson's Books. I came to work for him through Steve, although my connection with Steve was actually through Tai Chi, which we both practiced together at one time. Anyway, Ron hired me to be his manager in the fall of 1983, and I bought the store from Ron 4 years later. So in 1987 the store became Wayfarer Books, and that's what it's been ever since. One of the curiosities is that Ron and I attended the same university together in the late 60s and early 70s, but of course we hadn't met each other at the time, and we in fact didn't meet until we both met here in Kingston. What else would be? So the store is a survivor in the book trade. When I came to the book trade was, shall we say, much healthier and more robust than it is now. Computers and the internet have eroded the book trade. There used to be stores like this in virtually every university or college town across North America, and in the older urban cores of every large city in North America. Now these stores are becoming hard to find. The reason that this store is a survivor is because the woman who owns this building, Sheila Marsh, she's from Quebec, and she and her first husband bought this building, and they came here to start a stained glass business in 1974-75, and they had a very successful business, and Sheila is retired. She retired some years ago, and she has made it possible for the store to remain through the difficult economic times because she charges a very modest rent, which enables the store to survive. And the store is an excellent fit for this building. This is one of the oldest buildings left in the downtown. It went up as a house in 1807, and much of the interior of the building more or less remains more or less the same, but it's an excellent fit. There's a wonderful ambiance, and people really respond very positively to this space.
Maybe I should take a little look around. Quite a large space. There's a lot of great use of space with stairs and upstairs and books everywhere. And I'm sure that you know where everything is.
Most everything. When Steve and his friends moved into this store, they were scrambling and they didn't have a lot of time. So the space is actually, I guess, a result of brilliant, intuitive improvisation, because much of it wasn't planned architecturally or in terms of interior design, but it is a good fit. And I think that's part of the reason that people respond so positively, because it has a very comfortable feel to it.
Mm-hmm.
The balconies, the stair, um, the stairs for each of the three balconies were scavenged from a I'm trying to remember the name of the company, but they were scavenged from an old industrial facility, and the floors of the balconies, of two of the three balconies, the floors are made of 19th century barn board, which was scavenged from a derelict barn on Wolf Island. And I have been told by more than one person that the wood is probably more valuable than the books that are sitting atop the balcony. Well, my landlady still lives upstairs, and she's retired and lives upstairs. And she's the space upstairs is quite comfortable as well. Her business, the glass house, was in the very back of the store, and that space now contains a small art gallery called Verb Gallery. We have, which is organized by one of a group of artists who have their studios in the very back of the building. His name is Terry Rielly. He's an art technician at Queens, and he organizes different shows in the gallery, usually on a monthly basis, but not necessarily. Terry's from Newfoundland originally, and so he functions on Newfoundland time. And anyone who has grown up in a rural or a country setting will know what that refers to. But most of the artists are local, and there's quite a variety of art from one month to the next. I mentioned that this is an old, it's a store that is the kind of store that is not as common as used to be the case. And I like to think of this store as being the kind of secondhand bookstore that secondhand bookstores used to be.
That's good. Well, let's go back here and see. I know that there's a section for everything.
Well, most everything.
And you sell books, but you also sell prints and
yes,
records.
There's a few records here. The records came about primarily because a very good friend of my landlady was born and raised in Poland in Eastern Europe. And she came into the store a couple of years ago now and talked about all these records that she had inherited and had been carrying around with her for quite some time. And she wasn't really in a position, she just wanted to find a new home for them. And almost all the records were records that were produced after World War II, but before stereo. And almost all of them are opera and ethnic folk music and vocal music from Eastern Europe. So a very unusual selection. I've been told that some of these records would be quite valuable to the right person, but we decided to bring them into the store a few years ago, and we've actually done not too badly. We just sell on a 50-50 consignment. A lot of the more unusual and expensive books I have in the store are done on a 50-50 consignment basis, and I've sold books for quite a number of organizations around Kingston. And I have a permanent contract, an ongoing contract with Queen's University. I take in a number of selected books from their library system that are no longer, have been de-accessioned by the library. And mostly engineering and science, but also the humanities and the social sciences. And we've had thousands of items come in from Queens in the past 15 years. And a lot of this material is very unusual material. It would be very rare to find this kind of material in a storefront operation. And again, I take those in a 50-50 consignment basis. But the records that we have, we've actually done fairly well with them. I've also taken in a few records, jazz records, some early rock and roll. Blues and jazz are in very high demand, so those tend to sell very quickly. It takes a little longer to sell the classical opera from Eastern Europe.